have our second lobby actually being loaded up right now. It is going to be on MLG Metropolis. I really like this map a lot, and this is probably going to be a Protoss, I think, coming out for Team Ripsies.
I'm not sure if it is. I think it might be a TBT. We have some people joining the game that shouldn't be in the game, but it's okay.
Yeah, this is gonna be a TBT. This is ZeeZ JJH. JJH is going to be our player coming up for Team Ripsies, and he is. Let me just get a moment to look up this dude's stats. He is a rank 43 Masters with 42 wins and 18 losses. Wow, look at that win ratio. That's a pretty solid win ratio. 860 points for our Terran player in the division Ursa Echo. So really strong win rate for our player coming up from Team Ripsies. I mean, obviously, a lot of these players, when you get on a team, you don't spend as much time on ladder usually. I know there's some exceptions to that. I know that Sase, for example, grinds the ladder constantly, but usually when you have like a really solid practice partners in a team-based environment, you spend a lot of time playing a lot of custom games. So the relatively like low rank for our player coming from Team Ripsies is not all that surprising. But I'm looking at this win rate and I'm like, damn, that is a very strong win rate for Masters level. You don't see like a situation where you've got like 2-to-1 win rate. That's pretty strong.
I've learned very quickly never to judge a person by their rank, especially in Masters. I was never high Masters, and I would still have quite a few wins underneath my belt that were a little bit shocking to some people.
Yeah, we do have that one story where you were, I think you were playing for, you still, when you were playing for Team IP, one of the clan wars I remember you guys playing, you were telling me about this player that like came in, you're just kind of like, how are you like ranked like whatever, like, or had like 400 points with like 40 wins or something, or 10 wins or something like that?
It was 11 wins with 440 points or something. And he's like, all right, I know you're good because nobody has 11 wins and 440 points.
Yeah, so it's kind of just a little bit of a lesson there for you guys that are just kind of like still trying to figure out how the ladder works. I know that the ladder is such a complicated thing, but rank is not always everything. You got to look at something a little bit more than rank. So I'm expecting a lot out of this player, this pick for Team Ripsies. They wouldn't have picked him if they didn't think that he could handle the job. But we have a TVT coming up now for this best of 7 series. Game number 2 is going to be on MLG Metropolis. We have our players just loading in just right now, and we have our red Terran player. He's spawning over here in the right position on MLG Metropolis for Team Ripsies. He is JJH.
And over here, Juro, who won the last game pretty convincingly. Very strong play from our Terran player, Juro. Over here playing for MxG, it is Juro. I keep on thinking it says Jinro for some reason. And I know Jinro's not playing anymore. That makes me a sad panda.
Oh, he's not playing professionally anymore, Ajax. I think he still does play StarCraft 2, at least casually. At least I hope he does. I know he doesn't stream anymore. Jinro's stream was always really notable for the fact that he would be like the only professional player that I knew of that played like a lot of like hip-hop and rap on his stream. I know used to like him for that.
Yeah, dude, he was straight, though. Jinro was the G, man. He knew what was up.
Yeah, we actually
played all that hardcore stuff, man.
Such a nice guy too, that guy. I know, like we're talking about players that are not actually playing the game, but if you guys have never had the opportunity to meet Jonathan Walsh, he is such a nice guy. I got to meet him at 2 different MLGs, and he was just so like down to earth, like so like willing to talk StarCraft with like people, and like it's always fun to like talk StarCraft with professionals, because like you think to yourself like, oh, they might just like think of this as like a job or something, or they might like not want to talk to you because like you're not on their level or something, you know, kind of like the way that a lot of like the online community is, where like they don't even want to have a conversation with you if they don't think you're on their level. But the pros have never been like that. They're just down to just talk StarCraft. Like they love the game so much, they just happen to play it professionally. I always have thought that was really, really cool about the professionals in the StarCraft community.
Yeah, a majority of them were really nice. Not as much BM as you would think. And, you know, they're just normal people. And a lot of them aren't used to the attention, so a lot of them are still shy nerds. I mean, a lot of people think like, oh, they should be used to all this attention. I mean, if you get like thousands of people just constantly talking to you, it's just you would assume that it would get to you eventually. But there's still normal people that are just still worried about, oh my God, I'm gonna be on camera, I'm gonna be playing in front of people.
I still don't even know if I could deal with that. Being in front of camera, playing StarCraft in front of like thousands of people, it'd be such a difficult thing to deal with. They definitely like make it difficult to perform at a top level. I'll tell you that. We have a deviation in the builds right now, Ajax. I know we were just kind of like having a side conversation while we waited for this mirror matchup to kind of like kick in a little bit, but we do have a slight deviation. We have a command center before second supply depot. I know this is Buddha's favorite version of the one rack CC, and for our Ripsies player, we have a command center after second depot, but also he is throwing down 2 gas geysers much earlier than our blue Terran player is. So this is probably going to be indicative of a little bit more aggressive of an opening, not quite as reliant on that early SCV count, but it also might be indicative of some mech play.
Yeah, and he's got 3 on each gas. That's definitely saying something. He definitely wants to get a lot of gas really quickly. And with the 2 mules and everything, he should be okay to do so.
Meanwhile, for Juro, he is throwing down 2 additional command centers. So he is, or not command centers, excuse me, barracks. I don't know why I said command centers. He has 2 additional barracks coming down on the field. So he is very well aware of the fact that he went for that very early command center. So he's going to have a higher Marine count than his opponent. But he doesn't really have the information to know that his opponent is going for this double gas geyser. The positioning of this factory, I think, is a little bit more indicative of just a standard Banshee opening coming out for JJH. I think if we were going to be seeing mech, I think we already would have spotted that second factory, but now we have a reactor going down on that barracks. But the positioning of this factory still seems to me like we're going to be seeing a Banshee play and not quite mech.
Yeah, I think it's so. It looks like he's going to go for a fast cloak on his Banshee, and he wants to make sure that he has that pressure to take. And he is dropping a 3rd command center, so yeah, he's going to go cloak Banshee, take his 3rd base, and feel really comfortable doing so.
But the high Marine count of his opponent, Juro's actually just moving out on the map with this Marine count right now. Now, this is actually going to be a little bit of an interesting situation. Well, I was about to say it would be an interesting situation if he was going for that Banshee build, but instead we have a siege tank and siege mode already in production. So an interesting build for JJH. This early siege tank timing will allow him to actually move or be pretty defensive right now from the potential Marine pressure that Juro could be throwing out on him. We now have a second factory in production, so this is in fact going to be mech, which makes me so excited. I don't know if you guys have seen the cast before. You guys know that I love mech play in TBT. I know Ajax is not as much of a fan of it as I am, but I love mech play in TBT. But this is an interesting version of mech. We've got a factory with a tech lab first, which is an early siege tank timing. Now what this essentially does is this really prevents you from doing anything on the map. So if Juro wanted to take 2 additional command centers at this point, there isn't much that JJH can really do to stop it. But on the other hand, it does protect you from earlier forms of bio timing pushes, like Stim Marauder pushes, that sort of thing, because you have that earlier siege tank out. This is also going to make it so that his mid-game timings are going to be a little bit more powerful than had he gone for a heavy Hellion opening. The heavy Hellion opening being a little bit more standard these days.
Yeah, and dropping down a lot of barracks for Juro, so it looks like he's going to be going a very, very heavy bio play. So it looks like we're going bio against mech here. And, I play random now. I can't get enough bio. Bio's my thing. I feel like bio does it better. Because mech's positioning, all that stuff, you have to be so religious about, watching your tanks and all that stuff. I'd rather be dropping all over the place for them and making them defend than having myself defend and worrying about everything.
I think I know when you fell in love with Bioplay at TVT. It was at MLG Anaheim 2011. We were watching MMA go up against Boxer, and it was that game on Shakura's Plateau, game number 3 of that series. And I remember Boxer was playing some of the best Terran versus Terran I had ever seen him play. I know that Boxer seems to shine in the spotlight. He plays better than he normally does when he has a big stage and a lot of fans in front of him. And as good as he was playing, MMA was just on a different level with his bio play. He was dropping on tanks. He had multi-prong drop play all over the map. He made bio look so strong. And I think it was at that moment that I think Ajax, I remember watching that game with him where he just absolutely fell in love with the playstyle. It was a small skirmish over here on the left side of the map. We have some Blue Flame Hellions going up against Marines. Now, without combat shields, these Blue Flame Hellions do a lot of damage to this just pure Marine count from Juro. But that is just still a ton of Marines. But I don't think either player is really going to be able to advance into each other. The heavy siege tank count for our Ripsies player and the very high Marine count for Juro, I think it's going to kind of force a semi-stalemate.
I am getting a little worried that, all right, as soon as I say that, he's starting to drop down turrets. Yeah, he is realizing that now is drop timing, and he needs to prepare for this. Dropping down, what is that, 5, 6 turrets? Preparing for that very well. Exactly what he needs to do at this point.
Yeah, this is a really good map for drop play. We've seen a lot of really strong drop players on this map, especially in TVT. There's just a huge amount of airspace leading into this main expansion. There is also, well, actually not on this map. I was about to say that we do also have island expansions, but it looks like on this version of Metropolis, those island expansions are no longer there. But still just a huge amount of airspace on this map that allows the mobility of Terran Bio to just be so effective.
Yeah, and looking at the income right now and everything, it does seem like JJH is quite a bit ahead. I'm really surprised he hasn't landed that 3rd orbital yet. Maybe just waiting for a higher tank count before he takes that 3rd. But Juro looking like he's ready to be aggressive right now.
It's such an easy thing as a mech player to overextend your tank line, try and cover too many spots at once, and just have a single spot be attacked head-on by a full amount of bio units, and you just lose everything. So JJH is being very calculated with how he's defending his bases right now. He knows he can't defend everything, a 3rd base, and his natural and his main right now with the meager tank count that he has. He does have a pretty solid 6 tanks out, but I think he's going to wait until he has maybe 8 or 10 siege tanks before he tries to take that 3rd base location at the top center position.
And I think Juro missed the timing right there where JJH didn't have any anti-air over those tanks. He literally could have just picked up all of his units and dropped evenly on every single tank, and I think may have done some major damage there, but had just missed that timing. Not too confident in that opening right there, so he does back off and goes back and takes his 3rd base.
You're right about that. You're right about that window of opportunity, though. This is definitely something that JJH needs to be careful of. As the mech player, having air control is definitely an important thing, and you want to actually get that anti-air either out via Thors, turrets, or Vikings. We do have a starport down with a reactor for JJH, which will allow him to start producing the Vikings in the numbers that he's going to need to deal with the medevac count of his opponent. And now we finally have Juro taking that 3rd base location. Now, this isn't a planetary, so this is going to be very, very vulnerable to counterattack drops, especially with Marauders for Juro. And Juro actually is just going to walk right into that base by the look of things. I don't know if he really should be doing this. There is a good number of siege tanks already in position, plus 1 vehicle attack are already done. The Hellions are going to block the bio units from actually hugging the siege tank line, and so many bio units are actually being destroyed. The Hellions are all gone, but that doesn't matter for the mech player. He really only cares about the siege tanks at this point, and it does look like all of the Marauders are going to go down. And now we have a supply advantage for JJH, 125 supply to 120. These Vikings are going to be taking out one of the medevacs, but they're going to be forced back by those Marines. But I think that was a pretty good engagement for JJH. He was able to eliminate a complete bio army, and really all he lost was a single siege tank and some Hellions. But Hellions are really just a mineral dump right now. He doesn't care about Hellions. He really only cares about making sure that he manages to preserve all of the heavy, expensive siege tanks and or Thors in that army.
The problem now is that Juro is taking a 4th base, and he's preparing to macro up like crazy. He's getting a lot of upgrades right now, making sure that he's constantly moving his bio army around, making sure that JJH stays on his side of the map. Which is exactly what he needs. He's playing bio very well right now. I think he could add in a few more barracks, but besides that, doing very well. I think he needs to realize the threat that JJH is getting too many tanks. You know, switching into Sky right now would be a very welcome sight to see, but right now sticking on bio I think is a good thing as well.
We have a 4 Hellion drop down over here in the main base of Juro. These are Blue Flame Hellions. Blue Flame Hellions do so much damage to workers. They have +1 attack also, so a ton of SCVs are actually going down for Juro. That Hellion drops out a lot of damage indeed. It looks like the entire main base for Juro was completely stripped of SCVs. 17 workers were killed in all of that. I don't think any of those workers that were killed before that were actually done anywhere else on the map. But it does look like Juro is going to respond to the siege tank count of his opponent by actually mixing in siege tanks of his own. This is now a biomech unit composition for Juro. Just enough siege tanks to prevent his opponent from actually advancing, but I think these siege tanks are actually doing exactly what they are necessary to do at this point, but the upgrades for JJH are going to make his siege tank so much more cost effective than his opponent's, and I like this position for JJH. I really do. He's evened out the supply, 179 to 174, but he has such a more cost-efficient unit composition than his opponent does, and he's also mixing in sensor towers. He's also mixing in plenty of turrets. I really like the way that JJH is playing mech.
He's playing it very safe, very strong. And again, you know, playing mech the way it should be. Sitting on 3 base for a while, getting to that maxed out number, and then pushing when your opponent can't hold that kind of army.
This is a very strong timing push going up the middle here for Juro. Juro is actually in range of that factory. He is going to get it. He was able to take down a couple of siege tanks also, and he doesn't even really lose all that much. He's able to keep all of those siege tanks alive. He lost a few bio units, but was able to do some damage to the production of our mech player. The factory that was producing all of the Hellions actually went down and all of that, but he left his siege tanks alone for a moment, and JJH was able to seize on 2 of them, since 2 siege tanks do go down and all of that. So both of these players are actually playing a pretty safe back and forth game of Terran versus Terran right now. We have another Hellion drop down here at the bottom position, killing off a few SCVs. These Hellions are going to be able to move into the 3rd base by the look of things. I don't know if Juro is actually reacting to this drop. So here come the Hellions again. There is a planetary in position down here at the 4th base location that is going to repel those Hellions. These Hellions are going to be moving into the 3rd base, but there are already Marauders there to greet them, so those Hellions are not going to be doing any more damage. And meanwhile, we have a 4th base going up for JJH.
And right now, you know, getting 3-3 on his bio, Juro's still preparing for this major engagement that he needs. He's getting a higher tank count right now, which I think is the correct answer, because honestly, with so many tanks, there's too many tanks for JJH. He just has so many that if there was any kind of engagement just head on, he would absolutely obliterate his opponent right now. And I think Juro's realizing that, not putting down any more barracks. He's now adding 2 additional factories, also getting 3 nukes. I'm not sure how we missed this, but 3 nukes are now almost completed for Juro, and we're going to see some nukes this game, guys.
Yeah, this is definitely it's a very old response that I've seen very early in StarCraft 2 in the TVT Tank War stalemate days. It's not something we see all that often, but it's definitely something that's very effective if you know how to utilize it. Now, this is important, guys. Oh, hold on. We do have another Hellion drop over here in the main base. It does look like those Hellions were cleaned up without doing too much damage. But here's the deal with these nukes, guys. Siege tanks have a long range, right? Well, nukes have an even longer range. So you can launch a nuke out of range of a siege tank, and it forces an unsiege. It's really all it does. You're very rarely are you going to get a nuke to land on a very large number of siege tanks. What you're going to do is get them to move, and when they move, you advance your army forward. And really, what you're trying to do is just take away any sort of positional advantage your opponent might have gotten himself into using those nukes just to kind of clear space for yourself. So I like this decision by Juro to go for those nukes. But will he be able to do a lot with them? It does look like JJH is going to be moving out a little bit earlier than I think Juro's really expecting. I think Juro's just kind of expecting his opponent to just be stationary up there. But both players have really good understandings of where their opponent's army are, and it does look like we might have an engagement over here at the left position. No, JJH is actually going to back up, but still, 199 supply of mech versus 200 supply of biomech. JJH still has a superior unit composition.
Oh, and there's the first nuke launching. Not sure exactly where it is. Do you see it?
No, I thought I did earlier. It might have actually been taken. Oh, there it is. It's actually in the main base. It's in the main base. These Hellions do look like they're going to be taking out that ghost, but no, the nuke does land, eliminating some turrets. We have another nuke over here at the left position. It is going to be forcing that unsiege. It doesn't look like those siege tanks will actually be getting out of there before that nuke lands. So that nuke will not be able to do anything. But like I said before, he is forcing his opponent to move his siege tanks. And the thing is, Juro can charge an undefended position much faster than JJH can because he has such a heavy Marauder count. Here we go again. There is a nuke in production, but that Ghost is going to be focus fired down by those siege tanks. Point defense drones are already in place, which are going to make those Marauders completely useless. And now we have a 40 supply swing for our Terran player. JJH up to 187 supply versus the 155 supply of his opponent, and those Vikings were able to completely annihilate the medevac count of Juro because the Marine count for him was so low. So I like this position once again for JJH. He's staying so cost effective, but he doesn't really have like a position where he's able to actually move out against his opponent. He's pretty much stuck back here in a defensive position.
And now JJ's making the important switch into Sky Terran, has 3 starports up, building 3 Banshees at a time, and getting Cloak. Exactly what he needs to take out all these tanks.
His 3-3 is almost already done, Ajax, and I cannot stress enough just how scary 3-3 mech is. I don't care what matchup it is. If you get the 3-3 mech, siege tanks do like 65 damage a shot when to armored units when they have 3-3 upgrades. Such a powerful unit composition when fully upgraded. We have a 4 Marauder drop over here. These Marauders are obviously out of range of that planetary fortress. We have Banshees now eliminating completely the siege tank count as an opponent. And look, where is the anti-air for Juro? Juro has no Vikings, no Marines really. He doesn't really have an answer for these Banshees. He needs to start producing. There he goes. He is making one additional Thor, but no Vikings are actually coming out for Juro. I think he realizes that his opponent just already has a superior Viking count. It's not something he can really come back from in this game.
Exactly. Once you get a superior air count, it pretty much stays that way unless you go mass Ravens and just bomb the entire thing. You know, and on top of that, JJH is ahead on upgrades now. He is getting his +1/+1 armor and attack for his air, so his air is going to be more deadly on top of it. And with a superior tank count still, right now he's in a better position. He can't get out of his base necessarily to walk across the map, but he's in a better position in total.
You know, we're kind of seeing an interesting thing happen here. Juro opened with Bio. He's got 3-3 Bio units out on the field, but he is not making any more Bio units. It's almost as if he's making a full transition in to straight mech from here. But the thing is, his opponent already started with mech, so he's already got that superior tank count. He's already got superior upgrades, and now he's already ahead in the tech switch into Sky Terran. Just in all of the tech routes from here, JJH is ahead.
Yeah, and he added 5 more starports.
Oh, that Ghost now has Cloak. He can't really... Oh, but the Banshees are able to see him, I think, from either a scan or from a Raven. Maybe the Ghost wasn't cloaked in the first place, but that nuke wasn't able to actually land. There is now a Thor on the field, but that Thor gets obliterated by the +3 attack on those siege tanks. These Thors are so necessary in getting rid of these Banshees from actually doing all the damage they need to do to the siege tank count of our Terran player, and that scan is doing so much damage. Now all the Ghosts are being taken out by those Banshees. Those Ghosts are not cheap. They are not easily replaced, but look at the bank for both players. At this point, they can really throw away units, and it doesn't really matter as far as their banks are concerned.
Yeah, and Juro's still fighting for position, but you can clearly see that JJH is starting to take back the positioning, killing all those Ghosts off, except for that one Hero Ghost, which just shot down 2 Banshees. What a sniper, guys. But, you know, JJH, all those starports now adding tech labs on. I don't think we have a fusion core yet. I'd be really surprised if he doesn't add one on. Oh, I'm sorry, it's already done. So yeah, we can see battle cruisers again. And with a bank like that, 6,600 minerals, 4,500 gas, we're definitely going to be seeing battle cruisers this
I
game.
would not be surprised either, Ajax, if we saw a very large engagement coming up here from JJH. He could aggressively engage this lower tank count of his opponent, knowing that he needs to free up supply anyway. But look at this decision by Juro. He is now dropping mules all over the tank count of JJH. I love this decision. JJH does manage to unsiege in time, but here come the Marauders. All of those siege tanks are so badly damaged, they can be one-shot by every single one of those Marauders, and now you are trading Marauders with siege tanks on almost a 1-to-1 ratio. Such a good engagement for Juro, and now it looks like Juro does have a superior tank count to his opponent, but there is the first battlecruiser. That battlecruiser is out on the field. As good as those Thors were against the Banshees, Thors do almost no damage to battlecruisers, so it does look like Juro is actually just going to attack into his opponent's base with unsieged siege tanks. He knows he's not going to be able to actually, like, get those siege tanks out of there. He's just trying to do as much damage to his opponent as he possibly can, but 3 battlecruisers are about to finish. And when these battlecruisers finish, what is his opponent really going to do about it?
Yeah, I'm not sure if he should have went that far in. He's losing all these tanks now. He did kill off all the tanks of his opponent, which is really good. But when your opponent is going mech initially, they already have the production to replace all those tanks. So he's going to get back, I don't know how many tanks that was. That was like 8 tanks in production right now. And, you know, his tank count is back up to where it should have been. And Juro, although he does have a decent amount of factories, he doesn't have the kind of production that his opponent has right now.
He also doesn't have an answer for these battlecruisers, Ajax. These battlecruisers are going to be getting 2-2 upgrades in just a moment. We do have some ghosts over here at the left position. They're going to be target firing that 4th base with a nuke. It doesn't look like that JJH sees it. This nuke is going to land, and all those SCVs are going to go down. So many SCVs were eliminated by that single nuke. Give another nuke coming over here at the 5th base position, actually targeting all of the starports. But that ghost is not going to be able to get that nuke off. But still, such a devastating nuke over here at the 4th base, cleaning that base out entirely with a well-placed nuke. So Juro's sticking in this, man. He is behind. He does have a tech switch into battlecruisers that now he needs to contend with. He's trying to scramble Vikings in a hurry, but his opponent has 2-2 on his air units. How do you deal with this as a Terror player? It is such a difficult position to be in.
I have to give Juro props. Right now, he's holding back a beast right now. And, you know, eventually this beast is going to want to get out of his cage, and when he does, Juro's going to have the fight of his life. It doesn't really look like Juro has any production right now. He's kind of thinking about what to do, and it looks like he's going to make a switch into Ravens, which I think is a beautiful idea considering his opponent already has air superiority. Now the problem is that JJH already has Ravens out, for already accumulating energy, and right now he's getting Seeker Missile. So we're gonna see Seeker Missiles plus battle cruisers plus 3-3 mech. We're gonna see like this enormous death ball from our player JJH, and Juro is just behind the curve right now, and he's trying to catch up as fast as he can, and these nukes are doing nothing but delaying the fact that he's behind and he needs to catch up.
I don't know if they're doing nothing so much, Ajax. That was like, look at the worker killed count now for both players. 41 SCVs for Juro and 43 SCVs for JJH. Now consider that Juro actually threw a lot of SCVs away in order to make way for mules. JJH hasn't done that. That is 41 SCVs that were killed that were actually mining. So that was a lot of the economic damage done by that single nuke. Look at the SCV count for JJH. He's down to 27 workers. Now, I know he's got 5 orbitals, but still 27 workers? But I guess at this point, the bases on the map are almost completely mined out anyway. I guess it's not that big of a deal.
But then when it comes down to it, the major engagement, when you have 27 supply and workers and the rest in battle cruisers, tanks, Ravens, all 3-3 at this point, your opponent just doesn't have the same number of units. And down here at the engagement, we're going to see this massive engagement.
We got Yamato cannons now being charged up. They're going to be eliminating the Thors with the Yamato cannon. Point defense drones have already been dropped all over this army, so even if Juro had a very high Viking count, they're not even going to be able to do anything. But here come the Seeker missiles for Juro. The Seeker missiles are landing on the battle cruisers. And where are the Vikings for JJH? He needs those Vikings out on the field right now to contend with the very high Viking count of his opponent. And this is actually looking pretty good for Juro. If he can actually target fire those battlecruisers one at a time, he might actually be able to deal with them. But look at the bank for Juro. He can actually replace these Vikings because they are not all that gas heavy. Meanwhile, JJH is down to just 400 gas. He can't afford to replace any of these battlecruisers. He is targeting each of those Vikings with Yamato cannon, but now all of his battlecruisers are so badly damaged, he needs to get some SCVs up to repair those. If he can repair those battlecruisers, I think he'll take this, but if not, the heavier Viking count of Juro, I think, will be enough to actually push this army back.
He is taking out additional bases. SCVs are being pulled to try to take out tanks. Not doing a great job there. But JJH now is in the, has got his opponent by the throat. The one thing that Juro does have going for him right now is that he isn't next to his production. He is losing his mining bases, but as long as he has the production, he can still fight back this army. Dropping mules all over these tanks, doing a good job at doing additional damage to those. But, now JJH is repairing the battle cruisers. He's going to have a fresh army. And with that fresh army, I think he's going to be able to take this game.
I have never seen a more crucial repair job in my entire life. These SCVs are going to be saving JJH's army. I cannot stress enough how important it is that JJH manages to get all these battle cruisers up to working condition. Now, his opponent Juro doesn't have seeker missiles for this engagement, at least not yet. He's got 1. Now, he's also down to 10 Vikings. So we got 10 Vikings versus 9 battle cruisers, folks. But when your Viking count is matching your opponent's battle cruiser count, you know you're in some trouble. But it does look like actually Juro's counterattack with some Thors are going to be forcing all of these battle cruisers back. But these battle cruisers are going to be able to eliminate all these Thors. Like I said earlier, Thors don't do that much damage to battle cruisers because of the heavy amount of armor that is actually in them. And these siege tanks are going to be choking off Juro from actually being able to move his ground army. If Juro moves his ground army, those tanks are going to move right into his natural and siege him up. So this decision from Juro to actually move these Thors out of position, I think might come back to bite him a little bit. Those Thors were such a great equalizer in the disparity in Viking count for these two players.
And yeah, right now it just seems like Juro doesn't have the meat for his potatoes to take on this mech army right now. He does have the Vikings, he just doesn't have what he needs to kill that high tank count. So he knows he can't engage head on. He has to go for the aerial assault. And with all those SCVs repairing all the Vikings and the battlecruisers for JJH, I just don't think he has enough to take this game.
It is now 189 supply to 111. We have another nuke going down. I can't see where exactly it's landing. I think he might have already killed it. No, that nuke is actually landing down here on the tank line. And that nuke looks like it might actually land. The nuke is going to land. Siege tanks are going to be killed. No, I'm disappointed. That was only turrets that are being killed. We now have Vikings in position over here at the main base for JJH. These Vikings are doing some damage to the battlecruisers. It does look like with good target firing, all those battlecruisers might actually go down. There are no more Thors or Ravens actually on the field for JJH. These Vikings are going to be able to kite these battlecruisers. Will they be able to take down all of them? The battlecruiser count is now down to 5. It is 5 battlecruisers versus 8 Vikings. I actually think that Juro might have done it here. He might have taken out all of the battlecruisers for his opponent, but the supply is still 57 to 138. Even if Juro eliminates these battlecruisers, will he be able to take this game? This might be the first time I think I've ever seen a situation where that won't happen.
Yeah, and Juro doesn't have a bank. He doesn't have any mining at all besides these 2 patches at his third. He's completely tapped out. Even with his 3-3 bio, all he can make is Marines right now. And with no mining base and still dropping mules to try to kill off tanks, he just doesn't have what he needs to take this game right now. Still dropping nukes though, still being very active with these ghosts that he has left. And there's the GG.
Yeah, Juro does finally tap out. The stranglehold that JJH had put on him for the last 15 minutes of that game was finally too much. Juro could not breathe. He could not move anymore. He was out of resources, and he was forced to eventually concede the game to his opponent. And whoa, Ajax, that is TBT, man. That is Terran versus Terran played at its finest as far as I'm concerned. That was a 42 in-game minute game, folks. And you only get that with TBT. That was nuts, man. Can I just rehash just a little bit? We had mech versus bio, which is already cool. Then we had mech versus biomech, which is cool. And then we had battle cruisers. But the battle cruisers were actually eliminated at one point during the game, and the player eliminating the battle cruisers still lost because he just lost to just the production at that point, just the superior cost effectiveness of his army. The one thing I really want to give Juro a lot of credit for is his use of nukes in that game. The nukes, like I said before, were such a good positional tool, allowing Juro to move around the map, even though his opponent had a superior tank count, but also he was able to do a lot of damage with them. He was able to completely strip a base of workers. He was able to continuously like move his opponent's army away with good positions, and then target fire those siege tanks that were moving with marauders. Just a good understanding of TVT from both players. I think just the way that they both opened, JJH's opening was a little bit better because it went for so long. Had that game been shorter, Juro probably would have had a superior opening. But because that game went so long, and when you open mech that way, I think that's probably the better way to do it.
It might go back to that point where Juro just missed his drop timings. There was a point where he didn't have any anti-air, and he could have punished the hell out of him. I mean, he could have dropped all over the place, done some major economical damage. But the fact that JJH was able to get a mech army out with really no contest at all, and got his third CC up, which allowed him to get ahead economically. You don't want a mech player ahead of you economically at all. So the fact that he was able to do that with no repercussions, I think that really allowed him to pull ahead in the game.
That's definitely a good point, Ajax. If you are not going mech against a mech player in TBT, you've got two options. Kill him before he gets too big, or just stay bigger than him throughout the entire course of the game. And like I said, though, that's usually the mentality that you need to have when going against a mech player. And Juro never really had that, but he still dragged that game out for as long as he did and actually looked like he was going to take it a couple times. So it's still just a very solid TVT from both players, but that is going to give Team Ripsies a 1-1 tie ball game. So this is the first series of this season so far that we have not seen one team go ahead 2-0, and that's a good sign if you're looking for a close series between two evenly matched teams.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the next game.